After the chaotic rain race at Watkins Glen, I think it can be said that everyone was hoping for a much calmer race here at Mosport. But the qualifier for this race was a pretty bad omen. The race had to be called after 12 laps because too many cars went out of the race. The top 15 in the qualifying race transfers onto the main event, and when the officials threw the checkers early, there were only 12 cars remaining. After the qualifier, ARLA CEO Jen Walker called for an emergency drivers meeting and basically told everyone that the officials would crack down on sloppy driving this weekend. Very reminiscent of the aftermath of the Lake Afton race last season. And I don't think we need a reminder of what happened there. How did the main event turn out? Well, Scott'll fill you in on the details. Thank you, Earl. Round 16 of the 2010 ARLA Elite Series campaign took place at the Mosport International Raceway in Canada, the first of 2 consecutive races to be held in this country this season. Ricky Flush led the field to the green in his number 31 Meridian Bolt for White Mountain Motorsports, and starting on his outside is Gary D'Souza in the number 149 Ildis Racing car. Des Inman voluntarily stepped out of that car due to his poor performance this season. I believe he's only made 2 races, and when he has qualified for a race, he's really struggled. But Gary D'Souza stepped into the car this week, and not only did he qualify for the race, he put it on the front row. Casey Lester is making his ARLA Elite Series debut this week in the number 246 car for Patterson Autosport. However, he's running towards the back so far, and I'm pretty sure that's not where he wants to be. And to add insult to injury, Lester triggers the first incident of the race on lap 3, tags Sean Donnelly coming off of the final turn. Donnelly bounces back into him, and then he merges right into Anthony Griffith into 211, taking them both into the tire barriers. Anthony Griffith would continue, but Lester goes out of the race before he can make any real progress. There would be a couple more incidents on the third lap. Todd Stater drifts over into Kurt Walker. Walker slides through the grass back into Stater and takes them both into the wall. Stater was called to the hauler for this, and I forgot to mention that Casey Lester was called to the hauler for his incident. Also on this lap, CJ Dejau and Bigsby Foot get together, taking both cars hard into the wall. Dejau in the 37 goes for a couple of barrel rolls. Both drivers were able to climb out of their cars, though Dejau needed a little assistance. At the end of lap 5, Ricky Flush has the lead over Ricky Navarro and Gary D'Souza. Then it is Jared Anderson, DJ Daniels, Lance Andrews, Brenda Riggs, and here comes the rest of the field. You're going to see Andy Pearson and Bobby Porto, who came into this race second and first in points respectively, are pretty deep in the field at the moment. Reed Weber Jr. sat on the pole for the qualifying race, but he crashed out. Though due to the high attrition rate in that race, he made the final transfer spot, and now he's taking full advantage of that lucky break by running inside the top 15. We've been mentioning a lot recently that Weber's been very fast, but he just doesn't have the luck to back up his performance. Maybe he'll be able to turn that around today. Lance Andrews in the Kurt Walker Motorsports number 26 did not exactly help out his reputation last week at Watkins Glen. He ran into more cars than anyone else in that race, which earned him a 45-second penalty. But he's running a much cleaner race this week, running up inside the top 10. There you see just a couple of spots in front of him that Jared Anderson has gotten around Gary D'Souza for third. DJ Daniels, last season's Rookie of the Year, has had an abysmal season so far. He's failed to qualify for several races after stepping into the Gross Racing number 78. However, he has had some strong performances recently, and that's especially evident today. He's running up in 5th. Brenda Riggs has certainly run into a lot of cars this season, and, well, today is no different. She gets together with Lance Andrews coming off of the final corner. It looked like Andrews ran the corner a bit wide, though Brenda Riggs could have given him a lot more room than that. The officials issued Riggs a warning for this. Andrews would fall off the pace due to his damage, and Reed Weber decides to go 3 wide coming into that tight right-hander, taking Weber, Andrews, Taylor Brillin, and Joseph Howard off the track. That corner is barely wide enough for 2 cars. I don't know what Reed Weber Jr. was thinking by going 3 wide. Ricky Navarro in the 34 kicks off pit stops around lap 15. And on the right corner of the screen, you're going to see that Brenda Riggs follows him. The other drivers to come in this lap would be Amy Harrison in the 102, Allie Riggs in the 19, and then it is Andy Pearson and Leslie Riggs, who is obscured by that Pirelli sign. And then on the following lap, Ricky Flush brings the rest of the field down pit road. when everything cycles out. Ricky Flush has a big lead over Jared Anderson in the 10. You're going to see DJ Daniels in 3rd coming over the hill. Then it is Ricky Navarro 4th, Gary D'Souza 5th. Then Kevin Monroe, Brenda Riggs, Lucas Sweeney, last week's winner, Namimura, Lake Grill, Shane Lake, and the rest of the field. Coming into this race, Bobby Porteau has a 2-point lead over Andy Pearson. However, both Porteau and Pearson are running pretty deep in the field. Porteau is currently hanging around the top 25, battling with Rip Tyler in the 555 for a position. Andy Pearson is ahead of Bobby Porteau, but he's not doing too much better than the 64. He's only about 8 spots in front of him. That is Harry Nola in the 159 ahead of Pearson. And then Pearson's day gets worse. His number 2 car breaks down coming into that sharp right-hander, and he parks his car on the grass. That'll be the end of Pearson's day. His bid for a 5th championship hits a snag here at Mosport. A great run for DJ Daniels is about to come to an end when Ricky Navarro gets into the 78 coming off the final corner, taking him into the pit wall. The 78 car takes a very heavy hit, and that is going to knock him off the pace. DJ Daniels can't seem to catch a break this year, but it's about to get worse. He holds up faster traffic, and Kevin Monroe gets into the 78 and takes him into the tire barrier coming off the final corner. That gives Kevin Monroe some damage. That is going to take DJ Daniels out of the race. Ricky Navarro hits the pit lane for an unscheduled stop. That contact with the 78 and the pit wall has given him a bit of a tire rub, and so he's going to come in before that becomes a major issue. More problems for MRD Motorsports. CJ Dejau got into a wreck on lap 3, and now his teammate Joseph Howard in the 17 breaks down coming off of that right-hander. Howard parks his car to the inside of the track, but unlike Andy Pearson, he will return to the race, though he will be several laps down. Ricky Flush dives into the pits for the second and final set of stops. Jared Anderson stays out to try to gain some time on Ricky Flush. Gary D'Souza follows Flush into the pits. The 149 runs 3rd, and we should see the rest of the field come by. Lucas Sweeney stays out. Amy Harrison, Allie Riggs, Shane Lake, Namimura. Eric Jackson stays out. Kevin Monroe, Dale Underwood stay out. Leslie Riggs is in. Yafali Anamiha stays out. Jared Anderson came into the pits on the following lap. These tires take a very long time to pick up speed, so we'll see what kind of advantage Anderson had on Ricky Flush. And now we'll see the running order when everything cycles out. There goes Lance Andrews, he's a lap down. Jared Anderson actually has the lead. There's Joseph Howard back on the track. Ricky Flush is in 2nd. Sean Donnelly is a lap down as well. And Gary D'Souza is a very distant 3rd with Lucas Sweeney in 4th and Brenda Riggs rounding out your top 5. Here comes Eric Jackson in 6th, Amy Harrison 7th, Allie Riggs in 8th. But all eyes were on Jared Anderson, who gains the lead with some very good pit strategy. However, Ricky Flush in the 31 is significantly faster than the 10, and it did not take Flush very long to catch up to Anderson, who gets held up by the 211 of Anthony Griffith. Anderson and Flush are neck and neck coming into the sweeper, but eventually Flush will clear the 10, and the 31 very quickly opens up a nice gap over Anderson. There you see Joseph Howard and Lance Andrews in front of Flush. They are, as I mentioned, off the lead lap. Mechanical problems are going to strike Bobby Porteau in the 64. His engine lets go as he runs around 20th. M&J Racing has had a lot of mechanical problems this season, and now it is Porteau's turn to be bitten. So Porteau's championship hopes are going to hit a bit of a snag. In the closing laps of the race, Ricky Flush has a commanding lead over Jared Anderson, who is still running much slower than the 31. And then, just a short time later, we find out why the 10 was running much slower. He seems to have developed a mechanical problem around the time that second set of pit stops took place, and now his engine finally lets go after running in the 2nd position. Tough break for Jared Anderson, who has not had the best of luck over the past few years. This is going to hand the 2nd position to Gary D'Souza, making his debut in the Ildis number 149 car. But with 2 laps to go, D'Souza encounters the lapped cars of Sean Donnelly and Lance Andrews. Here comes Brenda Riggs running in 3rd, trying to take that 2nd spot away from him. D'Souza slides out the track. Brenda Riggs has a peek coming to the white flag, and D'Souza knocks Brenda Riggs off the course and into the wall. The battle for second comes to a very abrupt end, coming to the white flag. Brenda Riggs has a peek to the left of the 149, who doesn't quite give her enough room, but why would he? They're coming to the final lap. It's just the product of hard racing, and the officials agreed. They opted not to penalize the 149. But in the meantime, Ricky Flush has a huge lead on the final lap. I'll bet he's really holding his breath that Meridian Bolt has been extremely unreliable this year. And whenever Flush has a good run going, the car lets go on him. But if Flush was feeling a lot of pressure during this last lap, well, he didn't need to, because the Meridian Bolt holds on, allowing Ricky Flush to cruise on to his first ARLA Elite Series victory. And here are your top 10 finishers. Gary D'Souza gives that number 149 team its best finish of the season. Lucas Sweeney, coming off of his win at Watkins Glen last week, finishes third. Allie Riggs ties her best finish of the season with fourth. She finished fourth in the season opener at Daytona. Amy Harrison breaks her streak of bad luck with fifth. Shane Lake finishes sixth. That's his best finish in a while. Leigh Grill, seventh. Jason Bates in eighth. Bates came into this race fourth in points, and it looks like he's going to capitalize on the misfortunes of his rivals. Eric Jackson, ninth. He finally gets some luck in this series, and then Namimura rounds out the top 10. And now, here are your top 10 in points. Bobby Porteau hangs on to the points lead. He's 6 points ahead of Andy Pearson. Jason Bates jumps up to within 30 points of Porteau and Pearson. Despite not having any wins this season, nor in his career, he is in contention for this title. Kevin Monroe falls to fourth, 62 points behind the leader. Packer Carroll is fifth, a distant 126 points back. Nonetheless, Carroll still made a very nice improvement on his performance last year. Brenda Riggs runs sixth. Alex Carson is seventh, 150 points behind the leader. And then the teammates Namimura and Kurt Walker, eighth and ninth. And then Ricky Navarro rounds out the top 10.